So President Biden this week continuing to divide the nation with his anti-MAGA agenda, whatever his focus group tested talking point happens to be.
And joining us to discuss is former National Security Council Chief of Staff and America First Policy Institute Senior Fellow Fred Fleitz. Fred, good morning. Welcome back.
Good morning.
All right, Biden taking aim at Trump supporters this week. Listen to this.
The extreme MAGA element of the Republican Party, which is a minority of that party, as I said earlier, but is this driving force, is trying to succeed where they failed in 2020, to suppress the right of voters and subvert the electoral system itself.
The polls aren't exactly saying that the MAGA side is the minority here. Fred, what are your thoughts?
I think this is a real missed opportunity. There's not much that Biden can say right now about crime and inflation, gas prices, 401ks. This was an opportunity to speak to the whole nation on issues that concern all Americans. He could have acted as commander-in-chief and discussed some very serious national security threats. North Korea fired over 70 missiles this year, 25 last week. Russian generals recently talked about using nuclear weapons in Ukraine. Mr. Biden could have stepped above all of this and talked about these threats to our nation to unite the country. Instead, he makes a ridiculous claim that if you vote for his political opponents, after 246 years, democracy in this country will end. And I think every American knows that's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, that's their only talking point, Fred, is when it comes to that. You actually wrote a fantastic piece here that was up, and it said Biden misses another chance at real presidential leadership, and it comes to down to the place in the world. Look, love him or hate him, when we were under Trump, they weren't launching these missiles. Saudi Arabia, there was peace in the Middle East. We had China was pretty much holding back to its own borders now, not pushing in. They certainly didn't build a military base in the Atlantic Ocean. I mean, is there any way to recoup this leadership on a national stage under Biden, or we just got to wait till the next guy?
You know, it's leadership and incompetence, and there was a new data point this week. There's a senior official in the new leadership of President Xi's government. This guy used to be ambassador to the United States, and when he was here, the Biden administration refused to meet with him. So we alienated a senior Chinese official for no reason. And we're seeing this over and over again. Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, they don't meet or talk to their counterparts. This was supposed to be the experienced foreign policy team, the adults in the room. We all know our world is much less safe right now than it was under Donald Trump. And the new Congress is going to have to act on that.
Yeah. And one of the things, of course, that we have to talk about is the war in Ukraine. Russian President Vladimir Putin is reportedly desperate with the situation there. But where's the red line? And is Putin actually concerned about how Biden would react?
I think the war is going worse and worse for Putin. This idea that he's going to start sending criminals to the front lines. I think that shows the conscription plan isn't working. The Ukrainian army continues to make significant gains. I think there could be a major showdown this spring after the Russian army rebuilds and after the winter. But I think ultimately Russia's prospects in Ukraine are very negative. My concern is that there's no end game plan by this administration. I think we have to find a way on how to de-escalate this conflict to get both parties out of it. And I think we're going to need Congress to push the administration on that too.
Yeah, well, Fred, one of the big talking points has been that, this is a global recession and all this stuff. Well, yeah, it's a global recession, mostly because America is the global currency standard. However, President Xi Jinping, who's now basically president for life, he's essentially a dictator at this point, combined with what Putin is doing, they're trying to actually make American currency not the global currency. If that happens, what happens to our ability to print money, and what happens to our ability to trade in our own recession financially, locally?
Well, Russia and China definitely want to do that. The good thing is that most nations don't want to use Chinese currency in place of the dollar. They don't trust the Chinese. They know the Chinese don't engage in fair financial policies. But it's funny that Hillary Clinton is shopping around the idea that this is a global recession, that Joe Biden didn't cause it. Joe Biden did cause it with his energy policies, with the way he's treated other nations. He is singularly responsible for an economic catastrophe in this country that's spread around the world, and the American voter knows that.
Yeah. So, Fred, I'll put you down for a definite maybe for voting for Biden's reelection. Appreciate you being here, Fred Fleitz. Thank you.
Good to be here.